Once upon a time, there was a little engine called Edward. He lived in a shed with 5 other engines. They were all bigger than Edward and boasted about it. "The driver won't choose you again," they said. "He wants big, strong engines like us." Edward had not been out for a very long time. He began to feel sad. Just then, the driver and fireman came along to start work. The driver looked at Edward. "Why are you sad?" he asked. "Would you like to come out today?" "Oh, yes, please," said Edward. So the fireman lit Edward's fire and made lots of steam. Then the driver pulled the lever, and Edward puffed away. He whistled, "Look at me now!" The other engines were very cross at being left behind. Away went Edward to get some coaches. "Be careful, Edward," said the coaches. "Don't bump and bang us like the other engines do." So Edward came up to the coaches very, very gently, and the shunter fastened the coupling. "Thank you, Edward," said the coaches. "That was kind. We are glad you are taking us today." Then they went to the station where the people were waiting. Whistled Edward. "Get in quickly, please!" So the people got in quickly, and Edward waited happily for the guard to blow his whistle and wave his green flag. He waited and waited. There was no whistle, no green flag. "Where is that guard?" Edward was getting anxious. The driver and fireman asked the station master. "Have you seen the guard?" "No," he replied. They asked the porter. "Have you seen the guard?" "Yes." "Last night," replied the porter. Edward began to get cross. "Are we ever going to start?" he asked. At last, a little boy shouted, "Here he comes!" And there was the guard, running as fast as he could down the hill, with his flags in one hand and a sandwich in the other. He ran onto the platform, blew his whistle, and jumped into his van. Edward did have a lovely day. All the children ran to wave as he went past. And he met old friends at all the stations. Edward worked so hard that the driver promised to take him out again the next day. "I'm going out again tomorrow," he told the other engines that night in the shed. "What do you think of that?" But he didn't hear what they thought, for he was so tired and happy that he fell asleep at once. One of the engines in Edward's shed was called Gordon. He was very big and very proud. "You watch me this afternoon, little Edward," he boasted, "as I rush through with the express. That will be a splendid sight for you." Just then, the driver pulled the lever. "Goodbye, little Edward," said Gordon as he puffed away. "Look out for me this afternoon." Edward went off to do some shunting. Edward liked shunting. It was fun playing with the trucks. He would come up quietly and give them a push. "Oh, oh, oh!" they cried. "Whatever is happening?" Then Edward would stop and the silly trucks would bump into each other. "Oh, oh, oh!" they cried again. Edward played until there were no more trucks. Then he stopped to rest. Presently, he heard a whistle. Gordon came puffing along, very slowly and very crossly. Instead of nice, shining coaches, he was pulling a lot of very dirty coal trucks. "A goods train! A goods train! A goods train!" he grumbled. "The shame of it! The shame of it! Oh, the shame of it!" He went slowly through, with the coal trucks clattering and banging behind him. Edward laughed and went to find more trucks. Soon afterwards, a porter came and spoke to his driver. "Gordon can't get up the hill. Will you take Edward and push him, please?" They found Gordon halfway up the hill and very cross. His driver and firemen were talking to him severely. "You're not trying," they told him. "I can't do it. The noisy trucks hold an engine back so. If they were coaches, clean, sensible things that come quietly, now that would be different." Edward's driver came up. "We've come to push," he said. "No use at all," said Gordon. "You wait and see," replied Edward's driver. They brought the train back to the bottom of the hill. Edward came up behind the brake van ready to push. "I'm ready," called Edward. "No good," grumbled Gordon. The guard blew his whistle, and they pulled and pushed as hard as they could. "I can't do it! I can't do it! I can't do it!" puffed Gordon. "I will do it! I will do it!" puffed Edward. Edward pushed and puffed and puffed and pushed as hard as ever he could. And almost before he realized it, Gordon found himself at the top of the hill. "I've done it! I've done it! I've done it!" he said proudly, and forgot all about Edward pushing behind. He didn't say thank you, but ran on so fast that he passed 2 stations before his driver could make him stop. Gordon ran on so fast that Edward was left behind. The guard waved and waved, but Edward couldn't catch up. He ran on to the next station, and there the driver and fireman said that they were very pleased with him. The fireman gave him a nice long drink of water. And the driver said, "I'll get out my paint tomorrow and give you a beautiful new coat of blue with red stripes. Then you will be the smartest engine in the shed."